Welcome to Capital City News, your source for staying informed and engaged with Salt Lake City government. I'm your host, Brian Young with SLC TV. On our episode today, we spoke with Roake from NeighborWorks about his partnership with Salt Lake City to keep folks in their homes during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our History Minute is about Salt Lake City's historic role in testing the polio vaccine in the 50s. But before we get to those, let's take a look back and a look ahead right after our legislative update.
At its October 19th meeting, the City Council heard a briefing from Dr. Angela Dunn to discuss COVID case rates in Salt Lake County, adopted a temporary land use regulation to allow the Wiegand Center to operate as a temporary overflow shelter, and received an update about issues related to COVID-19, homelessness, racial equity in policing, and more. To learn more, visit slc.gov/council. Mayor Mendenhall held a press conference to announce her recommendations for how Salt Lake City ought to best utilize the money coming from the American Rescue Plan funding. She announced 6 major investments for the city, which are framed by 4 themes: building community resilience, community grants, homelessness and public safety, and taking care of the city. To learn more, visit slc.gov. In a ceremony on October 19, Salt Lake City broke ground on a brand new 80-megawatt solar farm. City officials, including Mayor Mendenhall, were on hand to witness this historic step on the road toward making Salt Lake City's municipal power usage completely renewable. Salt Lake City Corporation expects to source the majority of its annual electricity from the project beginning in 2023, while seeing the electric bill for city operations increase by less than 2%. Representatives from Salt Lake City Transportation, UTA, and NeighborWorks Salt Lake gathered to discuss upcoming transit improvements in SLC's West Side neighborhoods and answer your questions. Staff discussed new bus routes, new UTA on-demand rides, improved bus stops, and the Frequent Transit Network, or FTN. For more information, visit slc.gov/transit. As autumn changes and the leaves begin to fall, remember to do your part to keep them out of the gutters and storm drains. If you need to, you can request extra yard waste cans to handle the extra debris. To get your extra bins, visit slc.gov/sustainability.
With winter approaching and temperatures dropping, road construction in Salt Lake City is winding down for the season, but we still have a couple of projects working out, so take a look at our last road construction update for the year.
We have completed the west side of 300 West between 2100 South and 1300 South. Crews replaced a 100-year-old water line, built new sidewalks for increased pedestrian access, and reconstructed the western half of the road. The project will restart in spring 2022 to work on the section between 1300 South and 900 South and finish the eastern portion of the roadway. Crews will pull off of 900 South in mid-November to allow for increased business during the holiday season. Utility work will still continue in the area, weather permitting. In spring of 2022, crews will also start working on Phase 2 of 900 South, which goes from 900 West to 945 East. Check out the design at 900southslc.com.
That's it for our final road construction update of 2021. If you want to keep up to date on any of the projects that will be ramping up next year, be sure to keep an eye on Salt Lake City's My Streets page. But until then, that's it till 2022. I spoke with Roake from NeighborWorks about their partnership with Salt Lake City to take federal dollars allocated to Salt Lake City to help keep folks in their homes during the COVID-19 pandemic.
So my name's Roake. I'm the Director of Business and Resource Development at NeighborWorks Salt Lake. We are a 45-year-old nonprofit. We do comprehensive neighborhood revitalization. So we do lending. We help people with affordable housing. We do real estate development, again with that underlying building what the community needs aspect, and then we have a big focus on community outreach. We do service projects, we do special programs to respond to community needs. We have a West Side leadership program, a youth program. We do a little bit of everything, really, and we've been doing it for a long time. Our partnership with Salt Lake City goes back a long ways, almost as long as we've been doing this. We've been working closely with Salt Lake City, and the Department of Neighborhood Development over there and their staff, when they administer federal funds, when funds come down the pipeline from the feds, they will look for trusted neighborhood partners and to administer programs. They'll look for folks that are working on the ground and that can bring that kind of community voice to the discussion. And so we work in partnership with them as basically a subcontractor, I guess would be the easiest way to understand that, where we administer the program. We look at, we're qualified to look at people's financials in the same way that a bank would or something along those lines. And basically we just work in partnership with them where they will give the funds out, release funds based off of what we've done, what we report back to them. So. In response to COVID, and really what's become a crisis on all sorts of levels, one of the issues is foreclosures. It's people either losing their job, having their income lowered, unexpected expenses, health, and that mortgage falls behind, or there's a risk that it will fall behind. And what Salt Lake City, the folks over there in that department have decided to do is get ahead of the game. And about a year ago, they came to us and we talked about what can we do to get ahead of what's inevitably going to be a crisis here. If folks are unable to pay their mortgage, they're going to lose their homes. We kind of developed with them what we thought would be a good program to address that. That other states had tried to do, and other cities, where basically we put aside funding to help them pay the mortgage, to put it quite simply. And what we kind of set up was about a 3-month window that we could help somebody address their mortgage. So that could be someone that's behind on their mortgage. Say they haven't been able to pay for the last couple months or the last month, or they're worried that they're not going to be able to pay. They haven't gotten behind yet, but they're worried that they're going to. Or it could be somebody that's in a forbearance currently, and they're going to need to pay that forbearance eventually. Inevitably, all these mortgage payments, with the best intentions of that borrower, are going to need to be paid. And our goal was to set, up to 3 of those payments, or a maximum of $5,000 if that 3-payment system doesn't make sense, to either catch people up or to get them ahead in some instances before there is a problem, or to help them if that forbearance is ending and be like, well, let's address that lump sum that is still due. And what we came up with was really a pretty easy program for the applicant. That's a grant-based program, which is something that they won't have to pay back. It's a maximum of $5,000 that can go towards that, which, ideally that's getting them back to zero, getting them in a healthy position where going forward they'll be better able to pay their mortgage. And even I think in worst case scenarios, to give that window is really what we talk about, to be able to have some breathing room while you find a new job, while you, whatever it is you need to do to prepare. And we hope that it never results in a foreclosure. We hope that push prevents worst case scenario, which is that someone loses their home during a pandemic and a crisis situation becomes way worse. If you go to www.nwsaltlake.org, the first thing that will pop up is a pop-up that says mortgage payment assistance, need help paying your mortgage. And that will guide you through. It's a pretty basic intake process. Then we'll reach out to you. Turnaround is pretty quick as far as getting it approved, getting money to your lender to make sure that we don't have them putting a foreclosure notice. We can help you communicate with the lender and be like, this is what we're doing, all with the intent that you stay in there. But yeah, if you go to our website, or you could give us a ring, 801-539-1590. You can ask for Rob. Or we'll direct you to our lending staff. But everybody here is very familiar with the program, and we are happy to make it as easy and painless as possible to get qualified if we can.
It's time now for Salt Lake City's History Minute. Polio was a disease that plagued humanity for thousands of years. It's a disease that in some cases can cause muscle weakness and death. Major outbreaks in the 19th and 20th centuries in the United States and Europe helped define it as one of the most worrisome childhood diseases because it could cause lifelong disability. In 1954, as an experimental vaccine created by Jonas Salk needed test subjects, the people of Salt Lake City proudly stood up to do their part. In 1954, 20,000 school children ranging from 1st to 3rd graders across the state and in the city received either a dose of Salk's vaccine or a placebo in advance of the 1954 polio season. 9 months later, in 1955, the results were released and Salk's vaccine was deemed safe and was 80 to 90% effective in preventing the paralysis that came with cases of polio. Vaccinations against polio then began nationwide in an aggressive effort to eliminate the disease. In Salt Lake City, 10,788 children received the polio vaccine that year. Thanks to the efforts of parents to protect their children from polio and making sure they were vaccinated, polio was practically eliminated in the United States by the 1970s, proving that the best way to protect the children of the community from infectious diseases was to get them vaccinated and work to prevent their spread. That's it for another episode of Capital City News. Remember, the best way to stay engaged is to stay informed. You can do that by following us on social media at SLC.gov, by subscribing to us on YouTube, or watching us on Channel 17. So, for Channel 17, Salt Lake City TV, I'm Brian Young.